You know what? Turn this on. Do not disturb.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you, do you pronounce your name Divina or Divina?
Davina.
Divina. I am so privileged this morning to introduce to you Udo Gray Jr. and Davina Thomas. Congratulations for the publishing of your article on Authority Magazine recently. Udo Gray and Davina Thomas are Grammy-winning music industry figures and entrepreneurs. Their passion is empowering creators globally and simplifying the business of music. They founded House Studios with only $800 and sometime later left it with a valuation of nearly 20 million. That's pretty amazing for people as young as you are. Recently, they co-founded 24/7 Artists in Atlanta. They balance their time between making music, running the company, and cherishing moments with their 3 children. From what I read about 24/7 Artists, it seems that it's a network that helps new artists get an easier start. Is that true?
Yes, definitely.
Well, why don't you describe how you give them an easier start?
Cool. So, starting out as artists and producers ourselves, the creating music, making music comes natural. That's kind of a calling. The business side is not as natural. And so, over the years, as we've learned how the business works, the ins and outs, the intricacies, and it's changed over the years, we create roadmaps and systems for artists and their teams to help build the business side of the industry. Because there's so many tools out there to help you create faster and better and quicker, but there aren't as many tools out there to teach you how to basically operate as a business. Because the reality is, if you're an artist, you also are the business yourself.
Yes. And I imagine learning all the business aspect is a protection for their creativity. Is that correct?
100%. It's a lot for them to do, but it's essential, especially as an indie artist. You can surround yourself with the best people, but it's very important that the artists themselves learn about the industry.
Gosh, what a wonderful support you are. I think it's amazing that you're building your business by helping other people create a healthy business. Your goal is to create a thriving class of creators. What an amazing vision. How did you come up with that vision?
Because when you are the artist, when I started producing and my goal and dream was to make it as a producer, there were 2 options. You were either an independent, which was a synonym for struggling artist or
Yes.
starving artist, as people like to call
Yes.
it, or you signed to a major label and then you've made it. And the problem was, as I met more and more people who signed to major labels, they didn't really make it, right? It wasn't a system that birthed success. It was predatory at times.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I saw other industries shift, as we saw the rise of other industries kind of finding, like if you look at Uber, right? Anybody with a car can make a living driving their car. If you look at Airbnb, anybody with a property, a house or an apartment can make a living renting out a room or an entire house. Then you look at our industry and you didn't see the same shift. I was like, oh, I think we could do the same thing. Like, what if somebody with certain skill sets, creatively or business wise, could learn how to monetize those skills, those gifts, those talents, and make a living? Again, instead of this dream idea of becoming a multimillionaire superstar, be the next Madonna, be the next Jay-Z or Michael Jackson. There are millions of other artists who I believe could pay the bills and eat and travel and have a car and have health insurance and do what they love.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I love your vision. And it doesn't surprise me that you're succeeding by helping other people succeed. It's such an altruistic way to go about business. You met in middle school, but how and when did you know you were meant for each other?
Well, he's been stalking me for a little. No, I'm just kidding. We reconnected. I mean, the story in itself is insane, but actually, my ex, which is our daughter's father from a previous relationship, said Yudu's name one day. And we weren't together. And I was like, well, there's only one Yudu in this world. Like, that name is just too unique. And I was like, I don't know what made me reach out to him, but I actually reached out to him on Facebook and said, hey, somebody said your name today. How are you? And I said, whenever you get a chance, just give me a call. And he gave me a call.
And he actually did that.
Right. Like,
I've been waiting for that moment for like 10 years at that point. So I was like, yep,
he
I
gave me
can
a
call
call
you right
within
now.
like 5 minutes. And when we had the first conversation, I remember going home to my mom saying like, do you remember Yudu from middle school? And she was like, I think so. It's like, I just reconnected with him. And she was like, oh, how is he? And I was like, great, but something feels different about the connection. And so I didn't think anything of it. Couple weeks later, we talked again, and I told my mom, I was like, yo, like, something's different about him. I'm gonna see where this goes, and the rest was history. Yeah. We talked on the phone literally every day, all day, for a little over a year.
Okay. So the connection was hypnotizing or addicting, or there was something about it that you just knew.
It was just, you know what? It was honest. Our
There you
connection
go.
was so honest and so organic. I didn't feel like I was pitching myself for a relationship. I felt like we were, whether you're spiritual or not, it's like one of those things that like, oh, God made us for each other. The universe doesn't make mistakes. And, if you're a religious person, then I was made from his rib, is how I look at it, because there's absolutely no way that two of us from completely different backgrounds could have ever made this work or should be able to make this work. And we're not just making it work, we're thriving in it. And that's the beautiful thing about our relationship.
I love that. And I just so love that you replaced my words with honest. It was an honest relationship.
Yeah, it really was.
All right. The two of you suffered some miscarriages and then had a son that was born prematurely. What did these stresses do for your relationship?
I'll let you take this one.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I almost never answered these.
No, you don't. And I think it's important. Thank you for having us, by the way.
Yeah,
This is
My
amazing.
pleasure. This is delightful. I'm enjoying you very much.
The miscarriages were hard. I mean, now when you look back, you realize how difficult it is. We've been business partners as long as we've been dating. So we always had to find that balance between like building a business, which literally feels like at any moment it could all go away. And then when you make the decision, we are going to have kids, right? That's a decision we made. It wasn't by chance. There's an extra pressure on you of like, okay, now we've got to figure this thing out. And the first miscarriage was like, okay, that didn't work. Second miscarriage was like, okay, like that didn't work. By the third miscarriage, you're like, is this going to work? And now you've got this like underlying, unspoken, it tests your faith. It tests your ability to keep it honest, to be supportive, but also how do you communicate your fears? How do you communicate these worst case scenarios? Are we ever going to have kids together? Like, is this not how it works? Is something wrong with me? And while this is happening, you have a business you're trying to build, which is its own child within itself.
Wow.
So that was really tough. And then I think when Cooper came 3 months early, we had an event. We had a live show on a Wednesday night. Tuesday night?
It was a Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Davina was not herself at the show. And again, we had just gone through a pregnancy the year before. Our kids were scheduled to be 13 months apart, so they were back to back no matter what. And she just was really tired and not feeling herself. And because she had just had Thomas, the one who came before Cooper, she was like, I feel like how I felt right before I had Thomas. And I was like, well, it's 3 months before. Like, maybe you're just tired, like, we'll rest. And the next morning, she said, I still don't feel right. And just following her intuition, she was like, let's just go in and see the midwife.
Good.
And we go to the midwife at GW, at George Washington University. And the midwife goes under and looks and then comes up and has a face that's like, and she pulls me aside and says, hey, I don't want to scare Davina, but she's crowning, the baby's coming, there's no stopping it. I don't even think we have enough time for an ambulance. I need you guys to basically walk across the street to the emergency room. They'll have everything ready. Don't scare her because we can't afford for her to squeeze, like, but you got to get her across the street. And again, you're not expecting this. You wake up on a Wednesday thinking, I have to go clean the studio. We've got studio sessions. This is going to be a couple-hour appointment. It's already, you're looking at it like, oh man, this is getting in the way of
We
life.
have our 9-month-old son with us
We have a
because we're thinking
9-month-old
we're
son.
just going in and leaving,
Our
right?
daughter's at school, and it goes from that to like, oh, this baby's coming 3 months earlier. Your 9-month-old is with you. Your daughter's in school. You got to coordinate someone picking her up, someone coming to get your son. Who's at the studio right now? What sessions are there? And what's going to happen? And they prepared us for the worst. They said this baby may not make it, may be deformed, will more than likely not have, their capacity in place. They give you the worst case scenario, and then they were like, his lungs won't be developed, his eyes may not be developed, we're not sure how he'll look.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he does the loudest yell we've
he's
ever heard.
screaming.
He screamed like, I'm here, and
His
looked dead at
lungs
me.
were fine.
He was just fine. And, again, testing faith on the other side of that 3 months while he was in the NICU, and thank God for the NICU nurses at GW and the family support. Like, in these moments in our lives, we got a chance to find out just how blessed we were, because our support systems, both family, friends, and again, the NICU, the George Washington team, I mean, like,
second to none.
blessings. Like, looking back now, you
Gives
realize
me
how hard it is.
goosebumps.
But it was.
And when you're in the middle of it, obviously, you know how serious it is. They whisk your baby away. You don't get to hold him. You have to go see him in this little incubator. And even it wasn't until it was all over with and we looked back like, how did we do it?
Yeah.
How did we make it through those moments? And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember now, I'm pretty sure we both shed tears and all that other stuff, but it was like we kept going, there was no stopping with the family, with, we have 2 other kids that we have to, be just as present in their lives. And it was crazy and amazing all at the same time, just to see all the support rallied around us. So, yeah.
And how did the 2 of you support each other? Because, your mind had to be going 16 different directions at a time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a great question, because to be honest, I don't know, we were just there for each other, checking in. He did a great job of making sure that I knew that it wasn't my fault. He was so supportive in that way. He was so like, hey guys, I'm gonna have to, it was the first time other than our honeymoon that we stopped for a minute. And it was to the point to where I told him, like, I'm good. I'm gonna go to the hospital every day. I'm gonna be there all day. You go handle the business. And, that's how I supported him, because that had to happen. Yes. And then we would just come together in the evening with our other 2 kids and make sure that they understood that they were also loved. So
looking back, it must seem like, I imagine it might seem like a lot of it is just a blur, because you're just putting one foot in front of the other.
That's it. And you're not prepared. You're never,
of course
there
not.
are experts in a lot of things, but the reality is that no one is an expert in life, because every single day you get these new challenges, right? That you've never dealt with before. And it's like, until you go through it, even you know, people who write these books about childhood or, you know, raising children. Yes, but every child is different. And
Yes.
so, you know, just taking it one day at a time, just taking those steps and, you know, just being present is really all you can do and work through it.
Well, I commend you both for putting one foot in front of
Thank
the other and getting
you.
through it. You brag about how much support Davina has given you. What role has her belief in you impacted your amazing success, the success that you both share?
It is 100% the reason. I can't even say 99. And again, I think, you know, I share with you, I've always been a person of ideas. I've always had a what if or why not approach to life. That's from as long as I can remember, I think the way I think now. I've thought the way I think now. But to put it to action and to focus in on it and not be distracted, I'd never done before because there's always a new idea, there's always a new problem to solve. So I'd start something and stop and start something and stop and start something and stop. But when Davina said, you know, when we were on the phone that year that we connected, and I'm looking at the industry shifting and I have all these ideas of what the future of the music business could look like and how tech is going to disrupt it and how Spotify, this new company, is going to create more opportunities but more problems. She's on the phone like, yeah, I see it, I understand. And like, what are you going to do about it? And like, and then one day she was like, all right, well, let's do it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm going to move up with Jaden and we'll figure it out. But like, let's do that idea. And it put the ball in my court in a way it had never been before, where it's like, for you to leave with a 5-year-old child, move cross country, set up shop, and help me with an idea that's in my head that's never been done before, that's a lot of faith. And so that little nugget of faith, that seed, that mustard seed of faith, is what you tap into on those hard days, because there were many hard days early on where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if this idea is a real thing. But then you'd look at her and be like, you know, if I even dared say I don't know, she would be like, no, like you do know, like you've got this. And so it's like, I don't think I've got it, but if you think I've got it, I'll try it. And then you blink and then it starts working and people start calling you a genius and saying like, oh my God, like you figured this out. And in the back of your mind, you're like, if it wasn't for Davina, I would have quit 2 years ago. Like there were many days where I was like, I don't think this is gonna work, Davina, like we're out. And she's like, no, we'll figure it out. And beyond words, she would step up. I mean, there were days where we were literally hours away from not being able to pay rent or make payroll or pay a bill or pay ourselves. And Davina would say, how much do we need? And I'd say, oh, we're $6,000 short. And she would pick up the phone and call 50 people and she'd pre-sell studio time for the next quarter. And like, she'd be like, yeah, we just made $7,000 in 2 hours. And I'd be like, what? Like, how did you? And she's like, I just called everybody and like did a deal. And I just called the label and saw if we can get an advance towards the next session. And that, like, I'd never had that support either in that way. So when you see someone go to bat beyond just words, but through action, how do you not step up and do your part? How do you not dream big and crazier? And then every time I'd ask her, am I crazy? She would never say no. She'd be like, yeah, you're crazy enough for this to happen. And again, you fast forward and it keeps happening. We're still putting one foot in front of the other. I still have my moments now where I'm like, am I crazy or are we really gonna do this? And she'd be like, yes, you're crazy enough that we're gonna do this.
You're a living example of a man who has a brilliant woman standing behind him, right?
She 100% and true, in front, beside, yeah, all of it.
You know, I was so fortunate that my late husband supported me the way Davina has supported you, because I didn't believe in myself. I was too afraid to step out and write the first book. You know, what if nobody wants it? What if I'm not a good writer? What if? And he just kept telling me, I wish you saw yourself the way I see you.
And same, that's the way he pours into me, you know, like it's always like, you can do it, like just go, just do it. And yeah, the way he pours into me is like, it's like no other. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, you obviously really were meant for each other, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely,
Yes,
definitely.
I believe that. Davina, you said that he's the why of getting things done, but you're the how, which that story just proved it. But would you agree with that? And are those roles that work for you?
Yeah, they definitely do. He he comes up with the ideas, like he said, and sometimes, I have to be like, let's just pull that back just a little bit, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because, the how is going to get done is before we activate anything now. Before, with our previous company, we just went, right?
Mhm.
He would have an idea, someone would have an idea, we did it. And it's how we learn how to create those systems and processes, and it's what we became known for. This time around, we are a lot more intentional, because this is by far the biggest, we talk about what we did in our last company and we talk about the valuation and how we started, but this by far has already surpassed what we did at
Wow.
our previous company. And it's everything that we learned at the first company. Now we do everything with a lot more intention, but
Mhm.
still remaining true to having fun with it, which, can be challenging at times. But
Yeah.
back to, your question is, yes, I'm definitely a, dot the I, cross the T type of person. And he is definitely like,
Cursive scribble, you can't read.
yes.
Okay. Well, obviously, everything that you're doing and the way you're doing it is working extremely well. At the beginning of each year, I was so impressed with this. You put your family's needs on the calendar first, showing where your priorities lie. So what kinds of things go on your calendar that have to do with your family?
So, school schedules are always priority. So that's the first thing I do is
Mhm.
go in, put all the stuff on the calendar, and invite him to everything. Because the kids in Atlanta and in Georgia, they get a week off of school every month except for October and March, which
Huh.
I absolutely love that schedule because we also like traveling with our kids.
Yeah.
So whenever they have time off, we try to also schedule, like if we have something for work, then we'll just bring them along with us,
Uh-huh.
which we absolutely love that. We schedule group things. So if somebody's having a birthday party, if weddings, family reunions, we put all of that on the calendar. We make sure we get all that stuff on the calendar. And then we do our trips. So what trip are we going to take as a family?
Okay.
Whether it's just the five of us, like we plan it out ahead of time. Whether it's, our parents and the kids, we try to figure that out. And then what are we going to do
Good.
separately? And at first it was, we took our work trips as our personal trips because it was just easy. But we actually started just doing trips for just us
Good
because
for
it's so,
you.
just to disconnect. We found that when we are traveling for work, we get consumed with
Mhm.
that, and we don't ever want to cut those opportunities short to have meetings and stuff like that. And but that rest time just for us, which we find that we love staycation, so we'll pick a different hotel in the area and we just kind of binge watch
Uh-huh.
whatever it is that we don't get to watch, during
Uh-huh.
the rest of the year because we're working. So yeah, that's normally how we do the calendar. And then we kind of every quarter we meet as a
Mhm.
family to then just revamp if something has
Mhm.
come up. We
Mhm.
do that as well. Movie nights every Friday. We do
Uh-huh.
a movie night with the kids. And we'll do like watch parties with our daughter because she's in school in New York. So she'll be in, or she'll, her and her brothers have shows that they watch together and they talk about it. But we make sure those things are also on the calendar, just kind of those traditional things.
I am so impressed that you're so intentional about putting your family first, as
Oh, thank
demonstrated
you.
by getting the calendar lined up. But as a marriage coach, I really am happy to see that you take time away for just the two of you, the couple, to reconnect as a couple, to remember why you love each other,
That's it.
as well as to rest. You also listed as one of your tips to others to take care of your personal needs individually. So what does that look like? What does that mean?
That it took us a while to learn that one. That was more recent. And what we realized is like, again, the business consumes you as an owner. You're always turned on there. You always have to be a great dad. You always have to be a great mom. You're always trying to be a great husband. You're always trying to be a great wife, great son, great brother, great cousin. So you're all of these roles for all of these people. And as you keep adding on people and adding on roles, you get lost in the mix.
Yes.
And if you don't find the things that turn you on and like excite you, that is your thing, right? And it has to be selfish almost. It has to be like, for me, I love playing video games. Like one of my best friends lives across the country, and she was the one, Davina was like, you should play video games more with your best friend. Like, because you laugh different with him than you laugh with anyone else. Like you guys have a childhood friend. Like this is a friend for over 20 years. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about being a dad. You're not thinking about being a husband. You're in the moment. It's the only time I see you do that. So like in the time when she was pushing me to do that, we were like in a very stressful space with work. And she's like, I think the solution is go play video games. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't go play video games right now. Like I've got to get the business right. And she's like, no, I feel like it'll get it off your mind. And funny thing, when I started, I would play for an hour or two, and then when I get off, my mind would turn back on with such clarity. I'd be like, oh, let me work on this plan now. Because like that disconnect, for me, it's something as simple as that, or playing basketball, or, you know, binge watching on a show that you like, or going out and getting your nails and hair done and just having like a spa day. It's a thing for you to just be for you, not as a dad, not as a husband, not as a son, not as a boss, a coworker, partner. And it's so important. And again, we didn't know that earlier. The first 4 or 5 years of our business, I can honestly say there wasn't a single moment for ourselves. And you pay for it. Like your body hurts, your head hurts, you don't sleep, you have this uncomfortable feeling with yourself. You change. Like when your kids are born, you're not the same person. Like I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, and I'm definitely not the same person I was 10 or 15 years ago.
And you're not supposed to be, you shouldn't be, right? Like at all. Like you have to grow, right? And you should grow, and it's great to have someone, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's great to have someone that supports that change in you. And, you know, I saw him stressing all the time, right? And I saw him just kind of in this funk. And I remember one time I took everything away from him, and I was like, go outside, go watch a movie. He loves movies. He can go to the movies by himself all the time and just watch movies. So it was one day where I was like, yo, go watch a movie, go by yourself, just disconnect, watch a movie. And the same thing. He was like, how? We gotta do this. Like, you know, after selling the company and then you put everything back into your second company, it's like, yo, we have to make money now. We have to do that. And it's like, yeah, but you're not gonna be able to enjoy it if you're sick. You're not gonna be able to enjoy any of this if the family doesn't know you, because you're so just in it all the time. So the video games was a thing. For me, it was meditation. I would disconnect any time of day. I don't care what we're doing. If I felt myself getting to that point where I was aggravated, frustrated, or I couldn't concentrate, I would disconnect and go meditate. And then I started getting him to meditate with me. Every morning, 7 o'clock, we meditate, we listen to the same meditation, and then we discuss it afterwards. And we have very different experiences when we meditate, you know, but it was something that we could do separately, have our own, and then come together and discuss it. So yeah, it's so important to take care of yourself first in anything, not just business, but your relationships. Like I take care of myself for him and for my kids, and vice versa. I can't, you know, take care of you. You know, you have to do that. I can't make him happy. He has to make himself happy. I can only add to it. So,
And
yeah,
you were so unselfish and so wise to notice what he needed and push him to do it when maybe he wouldn't have initiated video game playing on his own. He would have felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, when we first started with our last company, I mean, we didn't do holidays. Like we were so in it that we forgot about Thanksgiving one year. And until the day of, and our daughter was with us and we're at the studio and somebody's call was like, "Are you coming over for Thanksgiving dinner?" And I was like, "Thanksgiving?"
Oh,
I was like, well, we're about to go down to the, where do we go? To the corner store, to the Chinese, the carry out in
Carry out.
DC. And that was our Thanksgiving. And
Yes.
she had the best time. I was stressed as hell because we weren't around family, and he was like, I got to keep working. So I don't know
We got
what you
6 weeks left in the year, and it's a slow time, and how are we gonna get through December? And yeah, but we figured it out eventually.
Eventually.
We have to refill our cups, don't we?
Have to.
Because
Have
when the cup is drained dry, everything suffers. Your family suffers, you suffer, the business suffers.
everything.
And no one can do that for us, although she might encourage you to, but no one can do it for us.
Not at all.
It's so much fun interviewing you. You're delightful people, and you
Oh,
wrote such a great article. I'm going to encourage anyone who's viewing this video that you go to Authority Magazine and read the whole article. They had so many great tips on it. If you want to get in touch with Udo or Davina, they're on Instagram at 24/7artists, and 7 is spelled out. It's not the number 7. And you can reach Udo at Udo Gray Jr. And I believe, Davina, yours is at Real with V, V-E.
Yep, that's it.
It has been delightful spending these few minutes with you.
Thank you so much.
And I hope I get to meet you in person someday.
Absolutely. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for this. We've been talking about telling our story for a very long time. And when we were going through the article, the questions were so thoughtful. It really made us think and just reflect on our relationship, and it was a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
I'll be sending you a copy of this interview so you can share it or do whatever you want to.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Give your kids a hug from me.
I will. We will.
Maybe call me your Aunt Nancy or something.
Aunt Nancy, I love that. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
You too.